It looks like the global economy might be avoiding a Greek tragedy. In case you haven't heard, Greece is one of several European nations that has a major debt crisis on its hands. There are so many of these nations that have problems right now that there's a funny acronym for them, the PIGS. And there's two I's, that's how bad it is. Portugal, Ireland, Italy, Greece, and Spain. However, we have the European Union led by Germany coming to the rescue, giving some assurance that Greece will not default on its debt. And that's brought to mind a lot of painful memories of the U.S. bailout in the financial sector. A lot of people are angry about that still, and you're even seeing potentially some bailout rage in Europe about, really should we be bailing out or rescuing nations and companies that had fiscally irresponsible behavior? So what do you think? Is the EU's rescue of Greece a bad sign for the U.S. and global economy? Ryan Werthner thinks so. I am blown away again. How is it bailing out bad behavior, overspending, underproduction going to improve anything? We will just have more debt to be paid off. At what point will people begin to wonder if they will get their money back? I think people are already wondering that, particularly with some of the financial companies in the U.S., even though you do have a lot of companies that have paid back their TARP loans already with interest. But still, there are a lot of lingering questions about whether or not bailouts were worth it. Jeff Pewter agreed. Whether we're looking at Japan, the U.S., the EU, China, there are still countless bubbles to be popped and oceans of toxic debt that the system will ultimately be unable to digest. The whole mindset behind the bailout model is really just delay and pray. It's a great point. A lot of people are very worried that we're putting off bigger issues, bigger problems in the long term by these short-term fixes. It will, obviously remain to be seen whether or not delay and pray is a failure. Hopefully not. Another reader, simply going by the name Real Guy, said that the bailouts have to stop. Bailout is the worst word of our times. Huge wealth movement from Northern Europe to Southern Europe. This is what used to start wars. It's a little bit of a dire prediction. Hopefully he's wrong there, but definitely when you look throughout history, a lot of global conflict has been economically based. Finally, Milton Bowden pointed out the risk is spread around and the lenders no longer need to do a good job of assessing the risks. Then, if there is a major default, a large group will call for a bailout to prevent a broad collapse. If the lenders felt the real risk, the brakes would be put on borrowing much earlier so that fiscal responsibility would be imposed before debt reached a crisis level. That's a great point to end with. It's definitely very similar to what happened in the U.S. A company like AIG, for example, so many companies, quote-unquote counterparties that had exposure, had to get these big payments so that they would not collapse if AIG went into its own free fall. And I think that is a big concern right now, that everybody's got money in everybody else's fiscal situation right now that's spread out so much that no one party feels that it needs to be responsible. But when you come into trouble, everyone has to go running for help because everyone is exposed.